This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. We're continuing in Mishna Berura, Daf Hashavua. So I think we have a very short reading today. We're doing the end of Sif Aleph. Again, the shita of the Mechaber was that the tefillin that is put on the left arm, that is inclined slightly toward the guf, should be no lower than where the flesh begins to ascend on the bicep. The Ramah then says you need to put it on the first part of the bone, near the elbow, but not in the upper half. However, the Mishna Berura pointed out that the Mechaber agrees to the Ramah on that point, that the upper half of the arm is not kosher for tefillin. And however, the Gra holds that the entire bicep is kosher for tefillin. The Prisha says that, and therefore the Chafetz Chaim says that it's best to get smaller tefillin because most of the time big tefillin are going to be below the area. And if you have to choose between too low or too high, it's better to make the tefillin too high than to make the tefillin too low, because too high, it's only the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah that say you're not yotzei, as opposed to if it's too low, everyone agrees you're not yotzei. So you always, the most important factor is the tefillin should not be too low. The Ramah continues, Gidem she'en lo yad rak zroya yaniach b'loy bracha. Someone whose arm is cut off, his hand is cut off. He doesn't have the yad, he only has the zroya. So what does that mean? Does he have the hand? Does he have the lower arm or only the upper arm? He puts on tefillin without a bracha. Says the Mishna Berura, she'en lo yad ratzolamer shenital pisas yad smoiloi im kol hakaneh ad hakoivdoi shenikra elen boigin. What does it mean doesn't have a hand? It means to say the segment of his left arm with the entire branch until the elbow is taken off. Okay? Avlam nishmar ktsas me'akaneh. Now, whose shita is this? This seems to be the shita of the Ramah says Toisus Parak HaKometz Kasu the Gidem Chayev. Toisus' shita is a Gidem is Chayev. The Arzarua says you're pater, so therefore you put it on without a bracha. So it's the shita, the Arzarua, that we're being concerned for. Avalim Nishar Ktsas Me'akot. If you have a little bit of the lower arm, Gamma Arzarua Moidela Toisus Chayev B'Tefillin V'Yivarach Gamkein Came out Tzasi B'Arzarua Shezachinu Mikarv La'Oiroi. That's what I found in the newly published Arzarua. So in other words, if there's any amount of the lower arm, then you could put on tefillin. So if you have if somebody has a little bit below the elbow, then there's enough makayim to put on the tefillin. Clearly, the wrappings around the arm are not me'ikar adin, right? And we had that before. We had that the shita of the Shulchan Aruch is that after you wrap your tefillin, you don't make the 7 wrappings. You put on the shel rosh right away, because the 7 wrappings might be a hefsek, because you don't have to do them. So we hold they're not a hefsek because it's part of the mitzvah, but it's not me'ikar adin. You don't need it. You do not need 7 wrappings to mekayim the mitzvah of tefillin. Forget the around the finger. That's just also not me'ikar adin. But even the 7 wrappings. So as long as you have a little bit of this part, even an inch, you can put on tefillin with a bracha. Which would mean that if somebody has a wound, and they have a cast, and there's a little bit of a space to put on tefillin, even on the lower arm, there's no issue b'chlal. So that's the conclusion of the Mishna Berura. B'loy bracha, ayin b'ber halacha. Let's look at the ber halacha quickly. Umeabach Nun Sadi. I don't know who that is. Ve'elya Rabba, ve'hagra, mashma, the tzarch levarach gamkein. Many Achronim say you do make a bracha. Acharei yesh lo kibayres, because he has a bicep. V'derech HaChaim gam kem asking maker than lechiv k'mayis mach mikamagim lein bracha mitzad lahakel. V'afilu lo nishar lo rak mechatzi etzem shebein hakovdu uveis hashechi lamala. What if, now this is an interesting question, what if somebody only has a little bit between half of the bone between in other words, let's say you only have the upper part of the upper arm. So you say, well, the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah say it has to be in the lower part of the upper arm. No, but the Gra says it could be in the upper part of the upper arm. The The Gra would say, even if somebody has the upper half of the upper arm, you could put on tefillin without a bracha. So now, but I'm putting on the Shalrosh. And on the Shalrosh, we know you could make two brachas. Right? That if somebody didn't make a bracha on the shel, was mafsik between the shel yad and the shel rosh, you make two brachas on the shel rosh, b'siman chav hey. Now, let's just review for a moment. What did we come out if somebody talked out for between the shel yad and the shel rosh? So we said that the Mishna Berura said if somebody, let's say, answered Amen Yehishmei Rabbah, then you would have to make two brachos on the shel rosh. The Chai Adam said that Pashtos you make two brachos on the shel rosh. The Ramah said that our meaning is like Rabbeinu Tam, that you would only make one bracha on the shel rosh. Remember this machlokes? How do we paskin if somebody was mafsik for a davar shebekadusha between the shel yad and the shel rosh? So the Chai Adam said you make two brachas, but we weren't going so far. We weren't ready to say that you do. What was the reason? He said because it's a svek sveika. Namely, maybe the halacha is like Rashi, that even if you talk out, you don't make a bracha on tefillin shel rosh, only brachas al mitzvahs. Was that the shita of Rashi? The Ramah says, if you remember, in Siman Chafei Sivtes, the Mechaber says you're not allowed to be mafsik, bin tefillin shel yad and tefillin shel rosh, and if you're mafsik, you're mevarach on the shel rosh al mitzvahs tefillin, which normally Mechaber does not say. And the Ramah says, then you have to make al shel rosh lahaniach also.
Maybe that was a non-davar shebekadusha that has it.
Right, so if it's a non-davar shebekadusha, then what? Everybody agrees that you make two brachas ledidan. But if it's a davar shebekadusha, then it seems like it's a machloikes whether you make two brachos on the shel rosh. Here, the Bir Halacha is saying that you definitely should make two brachos on the shel rosh. L'chayra, it's because, number one, you did not make any bracha on the shel yad. So, in other words, here it's a different factor. You really perhaps should be making a bracha on the shel yad. It's just you don't. So it's like here definitely you can make two brachas on the shel rosh. Okay, the Mishna Berura continues. V'im ein lo yad small klav. Someone doesn't have a left arm. Or he doesn't have a bicep. Pater melaniach shel yad af biyamin. He does not put on tefillin on his arm. We don't say, well, let him put on the right arm. No, he doesn't have to. V'yesh machmirim b'zeh, and some say that he should put on the right arm. Right? V'chol zeh shenasa gidem b'smal du makam menachas tefillin. This is all if he became an amputee on his left arm. Avlam nasa gidem b'yamin, afilu nikta like kol yad chayiv b'tefillin. Who's going to put it on? Other people have to put it on for him. Can a woman put on tefillin for you? So that's a very common question. Can a woman put tefillin on a man? If somebody needs help. So Hagoyis Maimonides says that there's a famous shita of Rabbeinu Tam that anyone who's not mechuyev in a mitzvah can't do it. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah says a story about a woman who is married to a chaver and she would tie his tefillin. She would just be Messiah, but she can't do the kshira. And then the Hagoyis Maimonides says, well, maybe tying is not making the Chefza Shel Mitzvah, it's only some kind of assistance, and even Rabbeinu Tam would be maskim. Says Reb Shlomo Zalman, the Achronim say, Lamaisa, a woman could put the tefillin on the man. However, the Sheva Levi says, L'chadchila, a woman should not, only if no one else can, and the Rabbi Yashav also says, let's say, can an aide, somebody has an aide, Rabbi Yashav says, L'chadchila, the aide should not put on the tefillin. Again, this is based on Shitas Rabbeinu Tam, that someone who's not mechuyev in a mitzvah cannot write the mitzvah and cannot, let's say by lulav, a woman cannot tie the lulav. Or by sukkah, this is Rabbeinu Tam Shita, a woman cannot put up the schach. Again, we're only choshesh for it l'chatchila. But let's say, even those who are choshesh for it l'chatchila by sukkah, that's regarding creating the chefza shel mitzvah. There might be more room lahakel by tefillin because they're not creating the chefza shel mitzvah. The chefza shel mitzvah has already been created. This is just assisting in the performance of the mitzvah. So Rav Shlomo Zalman says you could be lenient. You hear the chiluk? By sukkah, you're creating, the woman creates the sukkah. We don't allow that, l'chatchila. She can't create the lulav. She's not making the knot of the tefillin, she's tying the tefillin. So there's room lahakel. Okay? But l'maisa l'chatchila, one should be machmer. Have a wonderful day. We'll see everybody Monday, Be'ezus Hashem. Kol tov. Agun Shabbos.
Would someone be able to make a bracha if a woman's putting on tefillin?
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.